Good morning, fellow internet users. If you're watching this video right now, then that means you have access to the internet. And 92% of internet users use emojis. We love emojis, and studies show that we're using them more and more. But what are emojis, and why do they even exist in the first place? Perhaps more interestingly, how are emojis treated cross-culturally? To answer these questions, we first need to take a look at where these wonderful and wacky characters come from. And it all starts with this guy. In the early 1980s, professors at Carnegie Mellon used something called B-boards, which were like early online bulletin boards. Frequently, many of these posts would be jokes and contain sarcasm, but there was no way of knowing what was sarcastic and what wasn't, because on-screen text lacks body language, or a tone of voice, which we might use in our normal speech to indicate sarcasm. Professor Scott Fahlman suggested using these character sequences as a way of denoting what is and is not a joke. This is only the first documented instance of early emoji. Well, technically Scott's ASCII art is not emoji, it's something called an emoticon. These emoticons gained a lot of popularity in the early web around the late 80s and early 90s. However, you can't talk about emoticons in the early web without mentioning K-emoji. Around the same time, Japan was busy playing with their own baby internet, with newly connected PCs all over Japan. Their solution to this lack of body language was something called K-emoji. K-emoji, Japanese for face mark, is different in the fact that you don't have to turn your head to read it. Now jump forward to the late 90s and early 2000s with cell phones becoming all the rage. Japanese cell phone manufacturers found a huge business opportunity. If their users could send actual image versions of these emoticons, then users might be more likely to buy their phones. In 1998 or 1999, Shigetaka Kurita is credited with creating the first emoji for a Japanese company, NTT Docomo, on their new mobile internet platform. His emoji set consisted of 127 12 by 12 images. A quick note on how these work. Up until this point, emoticons and K-emoji are just strings of characters arranged such that they form a face. Emoji is different. They didn't have the technology to send a full 12 by 12 image, so they sent a byte outside the range of traditional ASCII encoding, which was the key for a particular image. This worked great except for when more than one cell phone manufacturer decided they wanted to make their own emoji systems. People might send their friend an emoji that represented a smiley face, however, that byte on the receiver's cell phone might actually mean a frowny face. Today, we avoid this by adhering to something called Unicode, an international standard for bytes and their corresponding characters. As you can see, different operating systems have their own interpretation of these bytes, but they should be fundamentally the same. The latest addition to these is Fitzpatrick's skin types. This is handled by sending an extra byte representing skin tone. Before we take a look at how different cultures use emojis, it should be noted that as a species, we don't just like emojis, we love them. Instagram's engineering blog recently published some data about how often emojis are used in image captions. As more people are given access to them, their usage seems to go up proportionally. You think social media data isn't convincing enough? Last year, the Oxford Dictionary named Face with Tears of Joy 2015's Word of the Year. Now let's see how folks around the globe are using these awesome symbols. Starting in France. French speakers like hearts. In fact, they love them. They're the only country for which traditional smiley faces are not the #1 most used emoji. 55% of all emojis sent in France are hearts, with about 4 times as many hearts being sent as the rest of the world. It should also be noted that France also leads in wedding-related emojis, with 0.39% versus 0.19% being the world average. While France leads in hearts in marriage, Russia seems to lead in romance. Russia uses about 3 times as many romantic emojis as the rest of the world. These are things like the kiss mark, love letter, and the couple kissing. They comprise about 7% of their emoji usage compared to 1.9% of the global usage. Not surprisingly, they also lead in terms of cold weather emoji usage, sending about twice as many as the average. Malaysia. Malaysia leads in terms of sleep emojis, using about twice the average amount, and they also send more funny emojis like the poop and the fart emojis than the rest of the world. Now let's take a look at the United States. The US leads in these emojis in particular, however categorically the US leads in terms of tech, LGBT, royalty, meat, and family-oriented emojis. Canada. Ah yes, good old Canada. Canadians use about twice as many raunchy emojis as the rest of the world. Things like the eggplant and peach are counted here as being raunchy. I'm sure you can guess why. They also lead in violent emojis, using about 50% more than the average. It's important that I mention that globally, with the exception of France, every culture uses faces the most. This makes sense because, like any language, the thes, ofs, ands, or rs comprise most of what is said. Faces are like that for emoji. If you're really interested, this is a phenomenon called Zipf's law, and it's present in all natural languages. That being said, we love the traditional happy and sad faces. They make up nearly 60% of all emojis used worldwide. So it looks like Scott really nailed it when he coined those first two happy and sad faces nearly 34 years ago.